What's going on, y'all? So I'm sure a lot of y'all are probably like, oh, I can't get into the freaking server. No, why they do it? Of course, that is what we call a region lock. So y'all got region locked out of the server for the CN for the China Blue Protocol Star Residence game. And some of y'all might be really upset by this and wondering why it's even like this in the first place. You're like, oh, here they doing the BPJP thing again, because of course JP/IPs. This is very common, by the way. This is a natural practice, and you'll understand why by the end of this video. But I know a lot of y'all were going bonkers during that live stream when the game first launched. The first minute the servers went up and the live stream was going on, and there was English people in the live stream. They found the live stream, and of course then they're acting a fool. Oh, can't play overseas. Oh, is it IP block? Is region block? It's like, bro, honestly speaking, what did you expect? But nonetheless, we'll dive right in. So that way you get everything answered. Fortunately, we have a beta that's coming up for global. We'll also touch on where this encompasses and, of course, areas that it does not encompass. So let's dive in. But first, be sure to like and subscribe. It helps out tremendously. Thank you very much. First and foremost, y'all, Blue Protocol Star Residence, which just came out on the 17th there in China, and many people have been playing it. Of course, we've been dropping some videos on it, and of course, it is a new version of the game that is different from Blue Protocol JP. Now, it has a lot of differences in it, and it has a lot of familiarities in it, but all in all, it is still the Blue Protocol IP. And a lot of people were trying to play it overseas, not in China, and they were met with a wall once they tried to get into the game or whatnot. So naturally, you might be here and you're like, oh, well, we got to do this here? And well, this is QQ and that's WeChat. Now, these are very popular tools that are used. I mean, WeChat's very, very popular. WeChat's pretty much like the all-in-one app that you use in China. For those who are not aware, I use everything for WeChat. You pay things, and it's like Apple Pay, but times 20. It's times 30. It's just a whole encompassing type deal. But nonetheless, you need this to get into the Chinese servers. You need QQ or WeChat to get into the Chinese servers. Now, you have to understand that in order to get these things, well, you have to have a lot of identification information. You need to have a voucher to scan to verify your WeChat. You have to have your passport. You have to have a Chinese ID. Now, you're like, oh, wow, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, and this is because of different regulations from different areas, different countries. Of course, Chinese regulations on games is a bit different. For instance, if you're underage, then if you're underage, and let's say you tried to get in here, somehow you got in here, and you gave a false ID or something, and it was a minor, right? The game would cut you off after a certain amount of time, because of the regulations within China, how these games operate. And if you're a minor, you can only play a certain amount of time. So it would cut you off. So just add something, of course. But nonetheless, this is a whole grueling process, of course. If you're someone who is not, does not have access to these things, or lives outside China or whatnot, it becomes a very gruesome process. This is intentional, y'all. This, and honestly speaking, this is a good thing. It's just like it is when BPJP, when Japanese servers also cut off IPs from outside of there, and so. Because at the end of the day, y'all, it really just boils down to one thing. Different countries have different laws, different regulations, and the communities are much different. That's ultimately what it boils down to when you see things like this. So, of course, we have, the English site here, and this one was the Chinese site. But nonetheless, that's what it boils down to. So if you're really kind of just wondering, okay, well, the regional lock, what really are like the main driving forces behind a regional lock, behind a game, an MMORPG in specific? And I need to emphasize that because it's MMORPGs that this is the most crucial thing for, because MMORPGs obviously are very hefty on community, on interaction, and on server upkeep, much more than a standard MMO would be in any other type of genre. MMORPGs in specific work in a very different manner in that regard, and as such, they have to operate in a very different manner in that regard. There's different costs that come with it, and all the above. So that's one of the big things there that you really have to note for. Not sure what this is about to load into. Okay, it's a little dimmer there. But nonetheless, this is one of those things that you have to kind of note. So if you really just dive into all the region-specific stuff here, the region locking, it really boils down to a few things such as licensing. Licensing is a very huge thing there. Licensing and publishing agreements, often you have different licensing and different publishers for this, and within their terms, they have control over that certain area that they're doing it in. So, that's part of the terms. Those are like the big things. Of course, there's server upkeep infrastructure. So the server and the latency, of course, but different regions. In MMORPGs, usually a very robust experience with a lot of people in it. And because of that, having these ridiculous latencies can really mess up the whole process and gameplay of the game, depending on how the game operates. This can really, ruin the playing experience potentially. So that's also a big thing as well. Then, of course, there's regional content customizations, which we see a lot. Legal and regulatory compliances, which we touched on just right there at the beginning of the video. I'm just running through this real quick for y'all, just so that y'all understand. There's legal and regulatory compliances. So that's pretty much just how I kind of explain how different regulations, kind of like Chinese, it has different gaming laws, and if you're a minor, you're going to get cut off. There's a certain amount of time that you can play. So there's different regulations per different area. So you have to abide by these things. And then, of course, there's pricing and fraud and security concerns, things of the sort. So region locking can reduce issues like account theft, botting, or gold farming. That's a very big thing for MMORPGs, y'all, to reduce things like that. So region locking can help to reduce these types of things. It kind of puts everything inside of a box so you can monitor things a bit better instead of just having everything everywhere. Because, of course, those things are big issues in today's internet. They're huge issues in today's internet, so you don't really want those things just kind of going willy-nilly, unchecked, out the wazoo. This is why we have MMORPGs that don't have certain trait functions or a certain this or a certain that or whatever, because you're combating these things constantly. So you have to find ways to combat these things, and region locking is one of those ways that you combat these types of things, these frauds, these scams, all these aboves. So this is one of those ways that you combat those. But ultimately, it boils down to the community. The communities are much different across the world, y'all. They're much different across the world. And look at it like this. I think this is the easiest way to explain it to y'all. Look at how Japan is, or look at a lot of these places in Asia here lately with those streamers, those nuisance streamers. People just acting a fool. The Somalis, all those types of people. Thinking about how Japan has suddenly become very annoyed by tourism, very annoyed by Westerners coming in and disrespecting their culture. And this isn't only just Japan. This is in other places as well, Taiwan and wherever. This is in other places as well. You see this happening with different news streamers, just different tourists, different just foreigners in general. Pretty much, y'all, you see this stuff happening in real life now. This stuff used to never happen in real life. But what is one thing that we all know about real life and about the internet? The things on the internet are multiplied by like 5,000%. We know that. So you take a group of Westerners, you take all these foreigners, and you put them over on a China server or a Japanese server, there's going to be issues. Because let's face it, the West is kind of unhinged. They are largely problematic. That's just the fact of the matter, y'all. So I actually approve when companies do this, and these Asian companies do this, China, Japan, or whatever, Korea, when they have regional locks, aside from all the legalities that go behind it, and the obvious things like costs and stuff like that, the regulations and stuff like that, the obvious things. But just from a community standpoint, I agree with it. Because, it didn't used to be like this. In the early 2000s, you had many MMORPGs that were completely region open. You played with Japanese players, and Americans played with whatever. It was all over. You had that, but back then there was a much more open, round, wide respect for the next person. So you didn't have these crazy people doing crazy things and trying to get away with things, hiding behind the wall of the internet. You didn't have that stuff. So as a result, it was just a more enjoyable society, more enjoyable experience in these games. You didn't really have to worry about that type of stuff. Whereas nowadays, it's the complete opposite. the complete opposite. And like I said, the perfect example is to look at those nuisance behaviors that we see in a lot of these countries nowadays and how people are getting fed up with it. And then realize it's the internet that we're talking about now, so everything's multiplied tremendously. So that's really what it boils down to there. It's the community aspect of it. And a great reasoning and view of that is also seeing people in these chats and the live streams, like the official live streams, like I was talking about at the beginning of the video, seeing English people come in there and being expecting to be entitled. They're entitled to it. They feel entitled to be able to come onto your server, entitled to do what they want to do, entitled to act the way they want to act, disregarding what you want to do, disregarding how your rules work. They feel entitled to come in and spread whatever they want to spread in their way. They feel entitled to do so, and that's the issue. That's why I have zero issue with region locking. I have zero issue with it, and I think it's appropriate, especially in today's world, until the rest of the world starts acting right, until the world in general starts acting right, because there's a lot of issues going on with the West for sure. That's for certain. But that's the biggest thing on community there that I really kind of wanted to highlight there in regards to this. So we all understand that a bit better as to why you see that happen so often. So hopefully that explains that to you. And then lastly, what I want to jump to here is just the where everything's getting localized at, where everything's getting published at. So we have a full and complete understanding of that in case you're wondering. And so simply put, Southeast Asia, yeah, I don't know about y'all right now. There has still to this date been no word of who y'all's publisher is for this game. So y'all might be going down the same path as BPJP in the Western launch, so where y'all might just get ghosted for a year and then nothing ever happens. I'm not sure. It's probably going to largely play into if the Western launch is successful. That's probably what it's going to play into if the Southeast Asia launch or publisher kind of goes through. That's what I'm guessing is likely going to happen there. But as of right now, y'all have no publisher. So of course, obviously the publisher for Japan is Bandai, obviously. And then the publisher for Latin America, North America, and Europe is A Plus Japan. So those are who are handling the games outside of China right now. But there is currently no Southeast Asia publisher. So I really don't know what to tell y'all there. If I find something out, I will keep you up to date. But as of right now, there has been no mention of a publisher for the Southeast Asia region. So hopefully this helped y'all to kind of better understand region locking, to better understand why these things are the way that they are, and why y'all shouldn't, to stop trying to, act so entitled to these servers, to these foreign communities, to so. The main reason why they often do not want these things interweaving is because problems emerge. Different cultures have different views of life, different ways of doing things, different religions, different just every day about how they go about things. So when in today's world, when you flash these things together, people nowadays don't try to understand each other. They just, oh, well, I believe this, so you have to believe it too. If you don't believe it, it's cancel culture. You know what I'm saying? So obviously that's super problematic on the internet. But at any rate, hopefully this helped to explain this to you all a little bit. But at any rate, be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. Let me know what you think about this whole situation. Remember, we do have the beta coming up, so it's not going to be too much longer for the global release, excluding Southeast Asia. But we do have that coming up, so look forward to that, and I'll keep you up to date on that, of course. So be sure to like, subscribe, comment down below. I'll see you on the next one. Much love. Holla.
Spikesu content.